In this role, we have Gary, who looks like he hasn't missed a day of lifting since he was a twinkle in his father's eye. And we have Nate. His fight style looks like he'd be very good at running and thinking his way out of a situation. And, you know, if you were to look at me right now, my fight style is somewhere between laughing at jokes that aren't funny and asking for change. Hello, welcome back. It's good to see you. Today, after watching this video, you're gonna have 3 ways to be a pain in the ass on the mat, which is what we want. After watching, you're gonna have 3 things added to your game that you can start using right away. These are good things that you can implement quickly and are very effective. Nate has wrist control, and then Gary circles out of his control, and Nate goes to wipe a tear from his eye, missing that wrist control. Now, what Gary is trying to do is Gary is trying to pass Nate's guard, which means get by his legs. So right now he goes to pin down that arm. I'll talk about this more at the end of this video. We'll go over some points, and then decides to move back to a butterfly guard. So Nate has his butterfly hooks and it has an overhook on Gary's right arm. Now take a look at this. Gary feels like his arm is in danger, tries to pull it out, and pulls his elbow line above Nate's chest. And this is exactly what Nate wants, because he has this very annoying Kimura from that position. And we're gonna talk more about this at the end of the video. We're gonna end a triumphant display of victory. The score is now 1-0. So they tap hands and go again. Now, Gary is looking to get double underhooks, and he's looking to drive his head into Nate's chest to hopefully extend him out in this like spine crusher type move. But Nate's doing a good job of pushing Gary's head to the side, so Gary isn't able to get that centered chest position, which is very helpful. Now Nate stands up and is trying to pass Gary's guard, and again has this annoying wrist control, looks for the cut across pass, and notice how his hand is doing a necktie as opposed to an underhook, which we'll talk more in the end. So he decides to sit back. Gary gets his legs in a half guard position as Nate is sneakily trying to undo the hooks of his feet. So Gary moves to a knee shield, and Nate does a 2-on-1 on Gary's arm. And then from there, he looks to get into a butterfly position. So he bear hugs and moves his hips up, his legs up to Gary's butt in order to pin the butterfly hooks. Pinning the butterfly hooks now renders them useless as Gary moves to post on Nate's head and hip out. Nate pops up, has very good ankle control, which can be used to prevent a lot of BS, and then steps over Gary's legs. So he has now passed his guard in a knee on belly position as Nate tells his son to go get a fruit snack. Daddy's busy. So now Nate has a knee on belly, and what Gary is trying to do is he's trying to prevent this situation from getting any worse by stopping the knee from going across his stomach. He doesn't want Nate to get mount, which is of course worse than side control. So he's using his right hand to block that knee and hips out very athletically and tries to get up. But Nate does a good job of keeping his chest low. And when the other hip out happens, and Gary does a very good job of framing into the neck when he hips out. If you've ever experienced this type of hip out, it's very uncomfortable. And again, a very explosive hip out, but Nate was able to post and was able to get this position from a knee slide that we'll talk more about in the end. of this video. So now we're in a position called a gift wrap, and after being adequately wrapped, the back is taken. Here we have a body triangle, which is extremely effective. And we have Nate currently has an over-under grip. And is waiting for a move to progress. So you can see very good wrist control, how Gary is controlling that wrist and puts the attacking arm, the arm that would be around his neck, over his head. So this prevents the rear naked choke from occurring, and then is also blocking, putting his hands up by his head in order to block. Nate uses that. He's trying to do a 2-on-1 grab to set up for an arm bar, and then decides to go back to attacking the back as Gary works to control the choking arm. He seeks to get control of the knuckle line. Hops up to his knees. Again, controlling the knuckle line. As Nate smiles while attacking. And right now rips his arm out just in time. If he wouldn't have ripped his arm out, that would have been an arm bar. And now we are what looks like a half butterfly position. Nate has a bear hug on Gary as Gary works to get his arms on the inside. So this is a half butterfly guard position. Gary has to get over those legs, but the thing is, there's a butterfly hook in there, and Nate is very good at the butterfly guard sweeps. And again, he tries to rip his arm out because he knows what can happen if he gets that far side underhook. So Nate attempts to go for a sweep. As Gary tries to go for a cut across pass, but is very hesitant about getting that underhook, especially since that Kimura previously happened. Gary tries to backstep, but is followed by the heel. Gary's goal is to get past the legs. Anybody's goal in this situation is to try to get past the legs to get access to the torso where you can have more control. And is trying to get arm control that won't land him in a Kimura or an armbar, which Nate loves to do. And we end with some aggressive hugging. All right, so tip number one way for you to improve your game. All the moves that I have ever learned to pass half guard, like the cut across pass, for example, involves underhooking the far side arm. I had gotten to a bad habit of overhooking the far side arm, and that can result in a sweep. So the correct position is to underhook. So if you have a move like a half guard passing, if all these moves that involve passing half guard have an underhook on the far side arm, then a very intelligent attack would be to attack the far side arm. So this is a Kimura, and what happens, what Nate loves to do is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, if you know, definitely comment below, but I think the only way to get through that would be to have a very deep underhook, because I know if your elbow line is right across on his chest, he can do an arm bar, and if you try to pull it back, that's actually the setup to be Kimura'd. It's happened to me a lot. And here's tip number two. When we look at somebody's game, especially if they're trying to teach us something, it's amazing how their solutions are answers to their own attacks. So we can see when Nate goes for a half guard pass, he doesn't use an underhook. He instead uses a necktie. And this is smart because then he shuts down all the BS that would occur if he was trying to pass somebody's half guard with an underhook and they did his attacks on him. So passing, next time I roll with Nate, I'm definitely going to use a neck grip, the necktie, to attempt to pass. That way I won't get the BS of dealing with all of the arm attacks he has from me having the underhook on him. Much like, you know, the saying, like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Like anytime you're rolling with upper belts, an ounce of prevention is definitely worth a pound of cure because you don't have to deal with any of that. This third tip, what's really like, it's almost like when you learn jiu-jitsu, they tell you things, what to do, and you're like, yeah, but then you realize you're not doing it. What I would like to point out is the excellent ankle control that Nate has. And when you have really good ankle control on somebody and you are grasping their ankles with your hands, it's very helpful because you get to control their feet and they're unable to put De La Riva hooks in, they're unable to do any type of sweep, like a sickle sweep on you. And on top of that, I remember my MMA coach yelling like, ankle control, because you can get kicked in the face if you don't have ankle control. So all the way from like, you know, a sporty De La Riva to MMA, preventing getting kicked in the face, like ankle control is number one. So if you're a beginner, or even I'm going on what, like 6 years, I know I can have better ankle control than what I currently do. Currently I try to post on the knees and kind of like press it down, but I might as well just go for the ankles. All right, so thank you so much for watching. If you found any of this useful, go ahead and subscribe so we can be friends. And until next time, bye.